The year is 800 AD that plays a smoky, dark one-room hut of the early Middle Ages. The family gathers around a wooden bowl on their rough-hewn table. Kings and nobles were able to afford their own sets of cutlery, and in many cases these would be made from the finest materials, including silver and gold. Sometimes these pieces would bear crests or prayers, reminders of the status and piety of the owner. All around are scraps of fabric and rope and old leather. These so-called wedding spoons were given to young couples by godparents, relatives, or friends. They were often elaborately decorated with designs celebrating the marriage, such as two figures representing the bride and groom or images of love and fidelity. These spoons were not only beautiful keepsakes, but also practical items for the new household. No longer were they willing to share a spoon or bowl with others. There were no rules against leaving your spoon behind, but it was risky. If you left your spoon out in the open, it could easily be mistaken for another and taken by mistake. Or worse, someone might try to steal it. Once simple tools used for communal eating, spoons had become personal items with cultural and social significance. New materials and technologies allowed for more elaborate and intricate designs, while changing social norms led to the development of new types of spoons for specific uses. But that's a story for another time. Whether used for religious ceremonies, weddings, or simply for everyday meals, spoons were an integral part of medieval life. Tell us about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. To prevent this, people began to attach their spoons to their belts or tuck them into their coats. This practice was common among the lower classes, where people were more likely to attend communal meals, lest they spread infection or worse, lose their only means to obtain a morsel of food. As people became accustomed to carrying their spoons with them, they also began to see them as a status symbol. A well-crafted spoon made from high-quality materials was a sign of wealth and refinement. Those who could afford to purchase and carry their own spoons were seen as more civilized and cultured than those who did not. This trend was especially pronounced in the late Middle Ages, when elaborate and ornate spoons became popular among the upper classes. This change in attitude towards sharing utensils had a profound impact on the design and use of spoons in medieval society. After the ceremony, they could be used for serving food and drink, reminding the couple of their special day every time they partook of a meal. This spoon, known as the coronation spoon, can be traced back to the 1100s. These spoons were named after the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ and were often given as wedding gifts. They were highly prized by wealthy families and are now extremely rare and valuable antiques. Another type of spoon that gained popularity during the late Middle Ages was the so-called caddy spoon, which was used to stir sugar and other spices into drinks. These spoons were typically made from ivory or other precious materials and were decorated with intricate carvings. They were primarily used by the wealthy elite and were often displayed as symbols of their status. While silver and gold were popular choices for the wealthy, wood was more accessible to all. Carvers favored certain types of wood, including ash, beech, and maple. Ash was prized for its strength and durability. Large bowls of stew sat in the center of tables, and everyone present helped themselves with a communal spoon. This practice continued in many households until the Black Death ravaged Europe in the mid-1300s. The plague killed millions of people and caused widespread social and economic disruption. With fewer people working in the fields and caring for livestock, food became scarce in many areas. Families who once shared meals now struggled to find enough to eat. While beech was valued for its hardness and resistance to moisture, maple was chosen for its beautiful grain and rich color. The material wasn't the only factor considered during the crafting process. Carvers would also take into account the shape and size of the spoon. For instance, the bowl of the spoon was designed to hold a good amount of food or liquid without spilling. The handle was shaped to fit comfortably in the hand, making it easy to use. These functional considerations were balanced with the decorative elements of the spoon. According to legend, it was blessed by Pope Urban II at the request of England's first king, William the Conqueror. The bowls and handles were intricately carved with scenes from medieval life, including images of hunts, feasts, and religious stories. The spoons were often polished and decorated with gilding or inlaid with precious metals. These beautiful objects were not only functional but also served as a symbol of the community and tradition. Ever since then, this spoon has been used to serve the king holy oil during the anointing ritual. That oil, imbued with the blessing of the church, is a powerful symbol of the divine right of kings. Each monarch after William the Conqueror was anointed with oil from this very spoon, including the current Queen Elizabeth II. The coronation spoon remains one of the oldest surviving pieces of secular silverware in Britain and possibly the world. Outside the wind howls, the rain pours. Inside, the only light comes from a flickering candle that rests precariously on top of the table. But it's enough to reflect in the eyes of those gathered around the table, each holding their own spoon. In this meager dwelling, a simple wooden spoon is a luxury afforded to each member of the family, a tool that allows them to share a common pot and partake of a single serving. For most people in the early Middle Ages, eating utensils were not a luxury. Rather, they were a necessity, a means to an end, nothing more. For instance, when someone was baptized, a godparent might gift the new Christian with a spoon, helping them to partake in the sacred meal known as Holy Communion. This would have been especially important in the early days of Christianity in Europe, when the true host, or wafers used in communion, were difficult to obtain. Instead, communicants would partake of a small piece of bread dipped into a chalice. In this way, the spoon served as a reminder of the sacrament and the giver as a representation of the godparent's love and support. These baptism spoons often had religious iconography, including images of Christ or saints. Some even featured Latin inscriptions with prayers or biblical passages. But owning cutlery was a rarity. Often people would have to borrow or share a spoon or other utensils necessary to eat. But in the grand halls of the nobility, things were quite different. In England, there existed one spoon that was used as part of the coronation ceremony of the monarch. While such extravagance was reserved for the ruling class, spoons played a large role in the lives of commoners. During the High Middle Ages, spoons were also popular wedding gifts. It wasn't uncommon for these wedding spoons to be crafted from wood rather than metal. In some cases, these wedding spoons were works of art in their own right. For most of medieval history, people ate together. As times became more difficult, people began to take their eating utensils with them whenever they went somewhere. As people began to bring their own spoons to dinner parties, they needed a way to keep track of their belongings. This need for portability also led to the development of smaller, more compact spoons. One of the most famous examples of this type of spoon is the so-called apostle spoon, which was produced in England during the 16th century. By the end of the Middle Ages, the function and meaning of spoons had changed dramatically. As we move into the Renaissance period, spoons continue to evolve both in form and function. What about the spoons in your life? Do you have a favorite? Perhaps a keepsake from a loved one or a special occasion?